As of this recording, I've read or received tons of advice about writing. Some good, some not as good, but I'm gonna share the one that has been the most useful to me, and that's the 7 parts of every scene. These are the 7 parts. Number 1. The ordinary world. You show the protagonist's ordinary life. Number 2. The inciting incident. An incident that threatens a change in the protagonist's life. Number 3. Complication. The problem he faces is even more complicated than he thought. Number 4. Turning point. The problem morphs into something it wasn't before. It's the moment when the protagonist thought the problem was one way and it turns out to be another. Number 5. Crisis. Now the problem is so large that the protagonist must make a choice. Number 6. Climax. The protagonist settles on a choice and takes action. Number 7. Resolution. Resolution is the result of the protagonist's action. Did he succeed? Did he not? Before I jump deeper into the 7 parts, there's something else that every scene must have, and that's conflict. Without it, you're heading for Borwell, and that is not a nice place. That's where careers go to die. In fact, almost every time I've caught myself thinking that my writing is bad, it was because I had no conflict in the scene, or it was too weak. In hope of explaining the 7 parts better, I decided to go into depth into a scene from Lord of the Rings. It's the scene that kicks off the entire trilogy. In this scene, they discover that the ring is indeed the One Ring. Gandalf convinces Frodo to take the ring to the village Bree, even though Frodo doesn't want to. On paper, this scene shouldn't work. It's a scene with 2 allies sitting down for tea, and it contains mostly exposition. These things combined should be a death sentence for any scene. But I'll go through the 7 parts of this scene and show you why this scene works so well. The conflict in this scene is something we've all seen before. The hero, Frodo, doesn't want to go on a dangerous adventure, but the mentor, Gandalf, needs his help. The reason we like this kind of conflict is because it's so relatable. We, just like Frodo, doesn't want to go and do dangerous stuff. We want to hang out with our friends and have a peaceful life. It doesn't matter that he lives in a made-up world and that he's so different from us. We understand his will to not accept the call to adventure. Part 2. The 7 parts explained. First off, there's the protagonist's ordinary world. His life as he knows it is about to be challenged. So you need to communicate to the viewer or reader what the protagonist's life is like. In short, you want to show what the character has to lose, what's at stake for him. This is how we connect to any fictional character. We show them caring about something and then we threaten to take it away from them. Simple and effective. So the ordinary world for Frodo in this scene is indeed very ordinary. He comes home from a night out with his buddies when Gandalf grabs him out of nowhere. But that is not the inciting incident. Not yet. Gandalf creeping around in the shadows is not something that challenges Frodo's everyday life, strange as it may be. The next part is the inciting incident, where the protagonist's ordinary world is challenged. Before, he could live on his life without changing until the end of his days. But now he is forced to do something if he wants to keep things as they were. For example, in Harry Potter, it's the moment when Hagrid says,
"You're a wizard, Harry."
It's not something Harry can ignore. The reason why it's so memorable is not only because the line is delivered so well, it's because it's the inciting incident of the entire Harry Potter series. It's the same thing in Hunger Games when Katniss says,
"I volunteer as tribute."
Her sister has been chosen to participate in the Hunger Games, where she surely will die. Katniss has to do something, or she will have to watch her sister die on primetime TV. It's no coincidence those lines are so iconic, because without them there is no story. The inciting incident in the Lord of the Rings scene is when Frodo sees the markings on the ring and Gandalf tells him that it is the One Ring. Next off, we have the complication. This is when the problem the protagonist is facing gets even more complicated than they thought. It's pretty straightforward. What's worse than a raptor in the kitchen? That's right. 2 raptors in the kitchen. Now it's even harder to go back to the ordinary life. The complication in the Lord of the Rings scene is
It's heard its master's call.
But he was destroyed. Sauron was destroyed.
the complication is ironically the least complicated part of this treasure. But the next part is. The turning point is when the scene takes a turn into something it wasn't already before. Meaning it either goes from good to better, bad to good, or bad to worse. The turning point is when the protagonist thought the world was one way and it turns out to be another. The most famous example of this is
I am your father.
although the most famous turning points are big plot twists. You don't have to have a big plot twist in every scene. That would be exhausting. It can be something simple like
That's no moon.
we have already established that Frodo has the One Ring, and that Sauron is looking for it. But as Frodo says,
No one knows it's here, do they? Do they, Gandalf?
okay, do you think that it's a coincidence that Frodo turns toward Gandalf just about as Gandalf is about to drop the turning point on him? Subconsciously or consciously, Peter Jackson directed Elijah Wood to turn around here to communicate to the audience that something is about to change.
There is one other who knew that Bilbo had the ring.
And there it is. Now Frodo has to do something about the fact that he has the ring, or else the ring wraiths are going to kill him. The turning point naturally pushes us into the next part, which is the crisis. Here's where real character is shown. This is when the protagonist must make a choice. The turning point has thrown their world upside down. What will they do now? How will they deal with this situation? This is a bit harder to show on screen without dialogue, since you can't as easily show what goes through a character's mind. But good filmmakers will find a way. And who is a good filmmaker if not Peter Jackson himself? Just before Frodo tries to give the ring to Gandalf, they show a short clip of a ringwraith attacking and probably killing a hobbit that guards the road. This is not only to show that the ringwraiths are bad guys or that they are out hunting for Frodo. We already know they are. The clip is mainly here to show what's going on inside Frodo's mind. It's what will happen to him unless he does something. Next up is the climax, and it's quite simple. The protagonist tries to go through with the choice they decided on in the crisis moment. So in the climax moment, Frodo does what we all do when we're scared. He tries to push the problem to an authority figure. Then Gandalf goes on to explain why he can't. This is a critical lesson for all fiction writers. Always let your character do the thing that everybody would do. Then if you don't want them to do that, explain why they can't. Don't create those annoying teenagers in horror movies who suddenly has forgotten that there is a thing called a phone that you can use to call the police. Instead, explain why they can't use the phone. That was a bit of a tangent. Lastly, there's the resolution, which is the result of the action the protagonist decides on. What's his new ordinary life like? Did he make it better or worse? The resolution of the scene is when Frodo decides to listen to Gandalf. They discover that Sam has been eavesdropping and makes him go with Frodo. The result of Frodo's choice to flee with the ring is that he now stands in the middle of nowhere with his buddy Sam. So, that's the 7 steps of the scene. An important thing to remember is that these moments are not connected at all in length. In fact, if we break these moments down to time, they vary greatly in size. The first thing you'll notice is how short the turning point and the crisis are. That's because the turning point loses its power the longer it is. You want it to be like a punch to the face. You want it to feel like not only has the character's life changed, but the readers or viewers has too. The crisis is short because it's incredibly boring to watch and read. We have all read books that has characters thinking about stuff seemingly forever but never actually doing anything, and after a while you want to throw the book across the room. The Lord of the Rings scene turns something that is at its core introspective into action, which is always a good idea if you want to stay out of Boreville. The other parts, ordinary world, inciting, incident, complication, climax and resolution, are all about the same length. Sure, The resolution is a little bit longer because they wanted to establish that Sam goes with Frodo. So if you make sure that no part is much longer than the others, and you keep the turning point and the crisis short, you'll be alright. Thanks for watching.